42 years ago, Dr. Henry Kissinger, the known war criminal, was Secretary of State in the Richard Milhous Nixon administration. And he authored National Security Study Memorandum 200 that remained classified for several decades. In that memorandum, now publicly available, they talk about using food as a weapon and as a tool of social control. Not a new idea. The Romans had carried it out, so had the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the ancient Chinese. It's known as siege. Control of food, control of water, you control a population. But his aim wasn't just to use it for control. His aim was to use it for depopulation, to ship the West toxic waste to the third world. That was just one of the sickening ideas in the declassified portion of this memorandum. Fast forward to 1992 in the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. There, globally, we saw the planet codify a plan to not push for expanding human wealth and expanding human success and expanding the living standard, but to reducing it and setting up a society based on making the people poor and setting up a global structure where having children is next to near impossible. That is the world we live in. If you go back to 2007, the British Ministry of Defense came out and echoed a Department of Defense report from here in the U.S. saying that beginning in the year 2016, right through 2020 to 2030, that they believe there would be massive multi-100% food price increases worldwide. And that during that global meltdown, that there would be incredible social unrest that would depopulate much of the earth. Now, in 2016, Vice magazine and other publications are reporting on a 2015 report produced by the U.S. government, the UN, and scores of foreign nations, as well as the State Department, overseen by food giant Cargill, the World Bank, and most importantly, the World Wildlife Fund. The World Wildlife Fund is a eugenics, anti-human organization set up by Prince Bernhard, who also founded the Bilderberg Group and who was a Nazi officer. He was also cousins and best friends with Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth's husband, who says he'd like to come back to the earth as a virus to kill 80% of the population. He also doesn't believe that Africans are people. This organization sells environmentalism to make the elite look like heroes saving the earth, when in truth, they are ushering in a planetary tyranny that is irrevocably damaging the fabric of our planet. In this new FEMA report, with headline, FEMA contractor predicts social unrest caused by 395% food price spikes, you learn that this is a report filed with governments and major institutions overseen by a contractor that since the 1940s has been the main advisor for the U.S. Navy Marine Corps.
The game itself created an opportunity to live into the future. It caused people to think through what the possibilities are. And in that process, I think they realized what they have to start to do today to prepare for that future.
The challenges and crises that we were assigned are exactly what we expect to see in the future. So you've got famine, you've got increased pests, you've got the role of climate change in the world.
It's a world where it's getting hotter and it's getting drier. We're also seeing increased social unrest because of the volatility in the food system.
Food prices are going up 400%. We've got a flood of migrants coming in. The world is starting to fall apart.
Everything we do is going to have some negative effect.
We are going to have a pretty hard world to live in.
The new normal is volatility.
You need to read the report and the articles about the report for yourself, because it fits in to the Defense Department report now from about 9 years ago, and to the British report, where they're acting like, oh, this is terrible, but we believe this is coming from all of our experts. But the experts are the eugenicists at Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and other major institutions that have been admittedly artificially jacking up food prices worldwide, financing the Arab Spring, financing other revolutions to consolidate control. everywhere, whether it's Venezuela or Brazil, or whether it is areas of Spain or Greece or Italy, central banks, private banks are installing presidents and prime ministers. They're threatening an EU military to take over 8 nations that are trying to leave the euro who never even voted to enter it. We are seeing an iron curtain of tyranny descend, and it's the globalists that have been orchestrating a financial world meltdown that is triggered by a food meltdown. There are major studies you can look into that when 50% of someone's paycheck or a family's earnings each month goes towards food, civil unrest, riots, and destabilization are triggered. If you look back at major university studies that have analyzed from the public records what happened during the 10-year depression from 1929 until about 1939 or 1940, 7 million Americans starved to death or died from complications resulting from malnutrition. To be clear, upwards of 90% of the American population in the Great Depression lived in rural areas, and more than half of them were self-sufficient. Today, only 10% live in rural. We're 90% urban, and only half of the rural population is estimated to be self-sufficient. That is 5% of the population. Think about it, 7 million dead with more than half self-sufficient. What's going to happen when only 5% are self-sufficient? And in this report put out by the World Bank and the State Department, they talk about societal collapse due to this problem, from crop failure to system failure. But they're the ones managing the crisis that they've helped create. They're the ones that think they're going to ride this tiger to burn down society and have a global fund set up like the Marshall Plan after this meltdown and after the depopulation to basically control planetary development. All of their world government projects have been failing over and over and over again. They can't democratically get it done. England just left the euro or began the process because they never voted to enter it. It's unelected. The globalists that run it are tax exempt. The EU Parliament is ceremonial. And the people of England across the political spectrum have learned about this. They've learned that the globalists have fed on third world populations, enslaved them, absolutely poisoned them, weaponized crops against them, engaged in genetic engineering, engaged in secret testing, and much of it's been declassified. And now these giant hordes of poor, desperate people are being directed into the West, not to be empowered, but to bring the West down. This is the sabotage of the carbon taxes. This is the sabotage of the globalist program. This is the essence of what the New World Order is trying to do to society, to make you so poor and pathetic they can dictate the terms of your total surrender. Remember Obama a few years ago when he traveled to Africa? And he told aspiring Africans who were looking up to him as success, he said, you can't have air conditioning or a car.
If everybody's raising living standards to the point where everybody's got a car and everybody's got air conditioning and everybody's got a big house, well, the planet will boil over.
He should have said, we're going to develop cleaner cars and air conditioning. And out of these new innovations, we'll have the next generation of success. But that's what they teach Americans. It's what they teach Nigerians. It's what they teach Japanese. They're teaching everyone that you should just lay down and die. You should hate yourself. You should just turn your whole will over to them because you're an evil, dirty human that's poisoning the earth. And they know that once you industrialize a country, people have less than 2 children and population declines. But if you go back to the British Commission in 1949, they say if we industrialize the third world, we'll empower them and they won't have too many kids, but we won't control them because they'll have their own industrial base. We move to let them overpopulate, then use them as a political weapon, exploit them, and then use them to conquer the West once their populations balloon. This is a cold-blooded plan by the most wicked people the world could ever imagine. This is the ultimate divide and conquer, great game, play one side off against each other system, and it's absolutely a threat to humanity.
Food riots now have killed yet another Venezuelan. According to Reuters, they're reporting that a man was shot dead on Tuesday during looting and food riots that were proliferating around the crisis-hit Venezuela. That's according to an opposition legislator who issued that report, bringing it to at least a number of four in the number of fatalities for this month's wave of unrest.
These were the chaotic scenes as residents of a city in southeastern Venezuela went on the rampage in search of basic food items. People desperate for staples like milk, rice and flour stormed a supermarket warehouse in Guayana City. A 21-year-old man was shot dead during the unrest.
As the government has reportedly neglected to pay the EBT benefits for 8 days. Michael Snyder of the Economic Blog reports, widespread reports continue to pour in from all over the nation of glitches with the food stamp system. It is 8 days into the month, and large numbers of people still have not received their benefits. And in other instances, it is being reported that EBT cards are simply not working correctly. Michael Snyder continues, on downdetector.com, there are scores of reports of problems with the EBT system from people all over the nation. Could this simply be another example of government incompetence, or is something else at work here?
Now, the big question is, what are we going to do about it? The advice I give you is the same advice that I carry out in my own personal life. Number one, everybody needs to be able to protect themselves. Everybody needs friends and family they can rely on in crises. And everyone needs high-quality storable foods and high-quality water filtration systems. Not just for collapse when it comes to water filters. All the garbage in our water, you'd be insane to drink well water or tap water with the glyphosates and all the rest of it. To continue our operation and expand it in the face of the globalists, because people are listening to what we're saying more than ever, because we've been proven right, because we've been reading their own documents, their own memorandums. The globalists are eugenicist technocrats. They're orchestrating a world meltdown to reduce population and bring in crisis and bring in control, while they pose as the saviors and establish a world government on the ashes of our society. Everything they're doing is about making us dependent. That's why it's key to have a emergency plan for disasters. That's why it's key to have storable foods. That's why it's key to have water filtration and non-GMO seeds. We have it all. Shortwave radios, crank radios, solar panel systems, the very best preparedness